Hey YouTube, how the heck we doing? Mango 2 subs, do I have a resource for you? Right now, we're going to break down every myth, every rumor, every misconception, every good build, every bad build, everything for Teemo to get you prepared for Season 12. I'll be doing Teemo Top and Teemo Jungle, and we're going to jump right in. We're going to start with the builds right now, and we'll go into the runes after, okay? So let's get to it. So, in Season 12, Teemo is blessed with item diversity. What that means is you can build a whole lot of things. Let's start with the mythics, because the builds always revolve around the mythics, okay? I'm going to drag every AP mythic into this little bar right here, and also we're going to talk about AD mythics for a second. AD mythics are not good on Teemo, okay? I'm aware that a Teemo player does build shield bow. I think AD mythics are not good on Teemo. I think to build AD on Teemo, you have to be playing way better than your standard level of play. Teemo's an AP champion. He scales with AP, so I'm going to be doing AP mythics. If you don't agree with me, you know, I'm going to call you a noob, okay? Happy New Year. There it is. But Teemo's meant to be played AP. The ratios don't lie, right? There are times where you can make AD Teemo work, but on average, if you play 100 games of AD Teemo and 100 games of AP Teemo is going to outperform. So please don't fall into the trap of AD Teemo. Okay, there is, like I said, there's one special player that makes it work. That's the only player in the world that makes it work. Let him do it. So let's get into the AP mythics, okay? Now I'm going to break down which ones we don't use. We don't use Everfrost. I think that's pretty fair. You could make this work, but again, a lot harder, probably not worth it. The thing with Everfrost is that it's very hard to combo off this active. To do this active and toss a shroom after, it requires level 16 or level 11, and you're standing on melee range. Your shroom time has an arm time of, I think, 1 second or 0.5 seconds. It's very hard to hit this route and then shroom it to combo. Everfrost is only good with combos, so it's not really good on Teemo for that reason. Proto Belt is okay on Teemo, believe it or not, but it's very, very hard to use. The amount of times you jump in and you die, or use it to get away, it's usually not worth it. It is playable, but like I said, I don't recommend it. I think Teemo's best as a damage champion. Proto Belt has a bit of damage, but also a little bit of utility, but it's very, very hard to use. Don't recommend, but you're not trolling if you do it. I want to make that clear. You're not trolling. Night Harvester, this item just kind of stinks overall. Not many champions build it. Night Harvester is just a worse Ludens. So the same item, just this has health. But it's just worse than Ludens in every way. So we just take that off the board easily. Now, I want to talk about a very popular item, Crown, okay? I don't like Crown because, one, you have Zhonya's. Zhonya's been in the game. It's 2,600 gold. You can take a rune that gives you the stopwatch. Zhonya's is really good. Crown is good as well, but it feels bad on Teemo because Zhonya's you use whenever you want to. Crown gets popped off like bone plating. Now, the problem with Crown is that Teemo doesn't have a way to make you fight him. If I auto you as Teemo, you can run away. You can hit my Crown and run away. You can dip. You can leave. Right? If you're playing Zed and you jump on me, sure, Crown's going to be useful. But if you're playing versus players that see you have Crown, it gets popped off easily. The reason why it's OP on Victor and Ivia, they make you fight them. If you see Victor, if you pop his Crown, well, guess what? You're in his force field. You have to fight him. And Ivia stuns you with her wall. You have to fight them. You have to play into the proc. With Teemo, they usually just pop it and go. It's very hard to use, especially with Zhonya's being right there. You know, they're both for survivability. With that being said, Crown's not bad. If you make it work, kudos to you. I don't recommend it. And now we're left to these three. I call this the big three, okay? I use all three of these mythics. Leandries is a great item now to melt tanks and bruisers. If you look at these passives, you got 12% bonus magic damage if they have 1,200 bonus health. That's a tank or a bruiser. 2 items to 3 items with runes and whatnot. If you verse a Scion, it's a no-brainer. Take it. Cho'Gath, no-brainer. But usually you have to think. This item is situationally good. It's good versus bruisers and tanks. My lucky number is 2 on the enemy team. That's when you build Leandries. It's not an every game build. Versus bruisers and tanks only. With Ludens, this is versus squishy champions only. Let me tell you why. Magic penetration is a very misperceived stat. Okay? Flat magic pen with Ludens, it gives 6 and it gives 5 an item. That's way different than Void Staff, okay? So if you look at percentage Void Staff flat on Ludens, if they have 100 MR, Void Staff is taken off 45. If they have 100 MR with Ludens, it's taken off 6. If you have an item, it's taking off 11, okay? See how that works? Now look at Ludens. If they have 30 MR base value and you take off 11, that's 30%. With Void Staff, if you take off 45% of 30, that's about 10 to 15. My math is terrible. 15? give or take, 10 to 15. You see how that's more close? 45% of 100 is 45. 11 of 100 is 10%. You see how the lower MR, the better flat is? That's how it works. Maybe I didn't explain that well. We'll get to it later as well. Either way, Ludens is flat magic pen. That's good versus targets with no magic resist, aka squishies. So if you are versus squishies, you go Ludens. If you're versus tanks, you go Leandries. And if you're any time that you want, you can go Riftmaker. Riftmaker is good every single game. That's why it's so good, right? The damage doesn't discriminate. You're doing 9% true damage versus tanks, squishies, Yumis, Orans, everything. That's why it's so freaking good. Omnivamp also helps you survive. So for the mythics, Leandries versus tanks, Ludens versus squishies, Riftmaker, whenever the heck you want, okay? Now, let me talk about boots. That's the next popular topic. Very important. We have, well, those aren't the bootsies I want. We are going to have these boots here. I'm going to drag them all over. Then we're going to work from there. Again, very in-depth, inclusive guide for y'all. Getting all the info on the board. So let's start with the ones we don't use. Moby's obviously, right? You're already the Swift Scout. Boom. CDR boots are not good because these two are just better. Why have haste when you get magic pen? Why have haste when you can go attack speed, right? Teemo doesn't have abilities that are pretty impactful, you know. When you have CDR on a Lux, you have your Q, W, E, and R getting haste. On Teemo, you have your Q, you have your W, which doesn't matter because it's a long cooldown. You have your E that doesn't work, and your Shroom doesn't have that much value from haste. So they're just not as good. Swifties, again, there's one Swift Scout on the Rift that we all know. His name rhymes with... I Lad, okay? He uses Swifties, but again, I don't recommend just like Shield Bow. Very hard to use. Doesn't make much sense to have more movement speed. Now we're left with these options. I understand if you go tank boots, okay? Here's my approach. Tank boots are a band-aid. If you're laning that laner that poops on you and you have to go tank boots to live, that's fine. But Teemo is a damage carry, right? He's a mix between a marksman and mage. He does damage, he carries. Doesn't have CC, doesn't have dashes. He does a lot of damage. That's how he carries games. So my rule with tank boots is that if you need to use them to survive, go for it. Because at the end of the day, if you're living, you're doing more damage. But they are a band-aid. Eventually, you're going to have to learn how to dodge, dip, and weave. And for that reason, I don't use tank boots. Because like I said, Teemo requires positioning, requires a little class and craft. That's a band-aid that I don't use. So now we're left with these boots for our bootsies. And this is pretty simple. We'll talk about runes in a little bit. But when you're going pressy attack, you go berserkers. Because when you have pressy attack, you need 3 autos. How do you auto 3 times? You have attack speed. Berserkers helps. It also creates a nice early game spike with pressy attack. 1 item, okay? And with pressy attack and laning phase, you auto them 3 times, you do an insane amount of damage. But when you're not going pressy attack, because you can't auto every champion 3 times, you go Sork Shoes, right? If you're not going pressy attack, you go Sork Shoes. Magic Pen on Teemo is beautiful. If you're versing a Kennen, you're not going to auto him 3 times before he Brain Blasts you with his ult. So when you can't auto a lot, you go Sorks. When you're not taking pressy attack, you go Sorks. If you are taking pressy attack, you go Berserkers. That's our 2 bootsies. So I'm going to drag this up into the core build as well. Now let me show you a couple combos before we go on. So if you're going Ludens, Ludens is versus squishy champions. You would go Sork Shoes. You're not going Ludens or pressy attack because that wouldn't make sense, right? If you're versus squishy champions and you go pressy attack, you can't auto squishy champion 3 times. Why would you go Berserkers? So you see the synergy there. Also the flat pen, we're going to talk about it in a moment. Now, if you're going Riftmaker, it makes sense to go pressy attack because you have this health, you have this in-combat stat, right? The Omnivamp, the true damage. Pressy attack, Riftmaker, Berserkers, now you have a nice combo. Leandries, you can go both, right? With Leandries, if you're versus tanks and you go pressy attack, you can rock with this. If you're going Leandries, because you're going Leandries versus tanks, but for some reason you want to go Sork Shoes, it's fine. I'm not mad at it, right? And you would go this. It's kind of like, you know, golden rule. Berserkers, pressy attack, Sork Shoes, no pressy attack. Now that we got that out of the way, let's do starting items as well. This one will take 2 seconds, okay? You have these starting items. Boom. Okay, so you don't go Doran's Blade because it gives AD and Omnivamp. We don't need that. We need AP. We're not an AD champion. I like to go Cole sometimes. Cole is a very advanced maneuver. You don't go Cole if you're a noob, right? You don't go Cole if you just want to win lane. You go Cole if you're versus the laning phase and you just want to farm. If you say, hey, enemy champion, I'm going to farm the first 10 minutes of the game, the first 20 minutes of the game. I'm going to go Cole. I'm not going to auto you. If I auto you once, this item's not as good as Doran's. I'm doing less damage. If I really just want to farm, I go Cole. Then it's good. I don't recommend it for new players. If you're in Diamond, Masters, Plat, and you know yourself, you say, hey, I'm not autoing them. I'm not playing for lane. I'm farming. I respect the Cole choice. But advanced tactic only. I'm going to take it away just for this. Now, common noob trap. Doran's Ring or Darkseal. I do not like Darkseal. It's only good if you're smurfing or if you have a matchup that you can win with your eyes closed. Darkseal, you have a weaker early game because you're losing 30 health. But if you get kills, it's better. So if you have to have a weaker early game but still be able to solo dolo, then it's going to be good. That's why I recommend it for smurfing only. And Doran's Ring, of course, is always going to be your go-to. It even gives mana now, which is nice. Doran's Ring I'm going to drag up here just because. Hey, Creative One, I see you Twitch chat. This is a YouTube and Twitch collab, okay? Creative One, thanks for the sub, buddy. Welcome to the community. Keep kicking ass, taking aim, stay positive. How the heck you doing, pal? So this is all the basics out of the way. Now let's look at the core builds, right? I'm going to slap a couple things together for you. So if you're going Riftmaker, it's very common to go Riftmaker, press the attack, and we'll get to that in a moment, okay? And with that being said, right, Riftmaker, press the attack, that's a nice combo. Now I'm going to drag this item here. Nashor's Tooth, you go in every single build. Let me tell you a little bit about Nashor's Tooth. This item is so ridiculously OP. It gives 100 AP attack speed and also gives on-hit damage. Let me tell you why this item is OP. Because when you're going a press the attack build, right, Nashor's is great. When you're going a squishy one-shot build, guess what? Nashor's is still OP because it gives 100 freaking AP, right? So if you're going Luden's one-shot, Nashor still gives 100 AP. You auto them once or twice, you're getting the on-hit damage, right? It's still great. If you're going on-hit, it's beautiful. Nashor's is good every single time. With Leandry's, it's still good. So here's looking like your first build, right? This is Riftmaker. Riftmaker's usually paired with Press the Attack. We'll slap that on there for y'all. You go Berserkers, Nashor's, Rift. This order is always cash money. That's your first core build. Now I'm going to give you your second one. I'm going to give it Leandry's here. So now Leandry's, again, you take Leandry's versus tanks. Now with Leandry's, you can go Sworks or Berserkers. It's kind of up to you, depending on the laning phase. But then everything else is still the same, right? Nashor's is great. This is your second core build. Your boots, Nashor's, Leandry's, beautiful. With or without PTA. Remember, Berserkers are PTA. Swork shoes without PTA. Doran's Shield. I did forget Doran's Shield and Tier. Thanks for the save. Tier is just bad because you can't stack it. It works on your Q. That's it. Tier only works on your Q for Teemo early game. When you get your Shroom, it works. But until level 6, it only works on your Q. It does not work on your E. So you can't stack this in time. Doran's Shield is good when you're versus a terrible lane. I use it very sparingly. I recommend using it very sparingly. But if you are versus a lane that you can't even think about autoing, like if you're versus a Malphite and he's slamming those Crash Bandicoot boulders at you, I respect the Doran Shield start. I want this guide to kind of be for your average game. So on your average game, you go Doran's, but I will say you can go Doran Shield sometimes. You can go Darkseal. Those are options. But just for the sake of this, I'm going to keep it with the Doran's Ring. I don't want to confuse y'all. Now the last build, Luden's, right? So for Luden's, remember, Luden's is a one-shot build, and that's going to be without PTA. Or I'll put Luden's with, and we'll talk about Room Page in a little bit, so I'll do these for now. Keep you guessing a little bit. So Luden's with Area, Electrocute, or Hail Blades. Remember, top and jungle vibes. And we'll get to that in a moment. And of course, again, Nashor's is good in one-shot builds. It's good in sustained DPS builds. It's good in every damn build. It's so OP. So these are the main core items so far, right? You have, you've got, put these up here for a little organization. You got your starting and your boots. You have Riftmaker with Press the Attack. You have Leandry's with or without Press the Attack. And you have Luden's with your one-shot runes. Now let's talk about situational items. Very important. I'm going to drag them all bottom. We're going to knock them out one at a time. And again, keep in mind, I am not even talking about AD Teemo because I don't think it's good. Right? I don't think you should be going AD Teemo. I don't think anybody should be going AD Teemo. It's a champion that has AP ratios. He's meant to be AP these days. On hit kind of got gimped. So this is without talking about AD Teemo. Whew. Star Freak. We're going to talk about runes in a moment, and I'll answer that then for you. And Glistener, yes, there is. You can do a nuclear shroom build, but it has to be in plat or lower. because Sweeper Lens is a free item that pretty much kills your shrooms. One Sweeper Lens can clear like 6 shrooms. So if they have 5 Sweeper Lens, which is very common, there's no way you can do a nuclear shroom build if you don't have any shrooms. So I would say in like Platinum lower or Golden lower, you can make a shroom build work for sure. So let's talk about the situational items, okay? So I'm going to go through each of these because I want you all to be very educated. A complete in-depth guide. Again, not going over any AD items because I don't think AD team was viable. Let's look at every situational item. So let's start with Morelos. Morelos is the #1 misbought item. This cuts healing. Now, when you are playing Teemo and you have to think very in-depth about this Grievous Wounds, it's not that the question shouldn't be, does the enemy team have healing? The question should be, does the enemy team have healing that is completely going to F my game? Is it completely going to deny me kills? Is it completely going to be a problem? Okay, if they have an enemy Soraka and they have a Silas and they have a Kled top and they have a Jarvan with Gore Drinker, yes, that healing is ridiculous. If they have a Yuumi, right? If they have a 20-0 Yasuo, you need Morelos. But a lot of the games that happen, you don't need Morelos. So if they have an ADC that has Shield Bow, but that ADC is 0-3, you don't reduce their healing, you one-shot them. You're playing Teemo, you do a lot of damage. So I highly recommend only go Morelos if you have 2 major sources of healing on the enemy team. 2 sources of healing that completely bones you, completely carries. This comes down to a lot of game knowledge, a lot of situational awareness. The more you play Teemo, the better you get at the game, the more efficient you'll be with this. I will tell you, I build this item, probably in about 10% of my games. It's not much. Versus a lot of ADCs, you don't need to reduce their healing when you one-shot them. Versus, and keep in mind, Teemo's run Ignite. I forgot to mention that. When you have Ignite, that's a built-in Grievous Wounds. So Morelos is viable, but I don't build it that often. Banshees, I don't even give the light of day because why go Banshees when you can go Zanyas? Oh, that Zed, you Zanyas him. You don't go Banshees. Oh, Anivia hits you, you Zanyas it. You don't go Banshees. Banshees is quite literally only good on Teemo for something like a Blitz Hook or something like a Malzahar R if he's dumb enough just to R you. But in most cases, Zanyas will be better. So I'm taking Banshees off the board because of that. Hey, Koi, how you doing? Hey, Rocky, what's up? Everybody, this is a Twitch and YouTube collab. We're going over everything Teemo with the items right now. And yeah, I'm talking to Twitch. I'm talking to YouTube. I'm talking to my mother, my father. Happy New Year's to them. My sister, my brother. Happy New Year's, everybody. Twitch chat, YouTube chat. Mwah. And speaking of Zanyas, this is probably one of the best items for Teemo. This item can win you a game. It can lose you a game. But generally, on average, this item is really good. You just have to practice it a little bit, right? It makes you invulnerable for 2 seconds. It's amazing. Zanyas, Morello, good items. Morello, situational Zanyas, you can build every freaking game. Void Staff, very important item again. If they have I want to say if they have 2 magic resist items, this always is situational, but just a generalized rule. If they have 2 Amar items, you go Void Staff. No questions asked, right? So if their top and jungle have 2 Amar items, Void Staff is worth it because that's usually their front line. Always judge it based off the enemies, right? Same thing with Morello. If they're 0-10 ADC, have Merc Treads, you don't need Void, right? You just one-shot them anyway. But always situational. Just keep all this in mind. 2 MR items on 2 or more champions. Void Staff's going to be S tier. Beautiful. Lichbane. This item sucks now. I want to tell you why. It does burst damage. That's its specialty. Well, Nashor's has 100 AP. Nashor's does more burst than Luden's because you get 25 AP. And if you land 2 autos with Nashor's, it's better than Lichbane, right? You get attack speed, AP, autos. That's generally better. Also, if you want to burst, Shadowflame's better than Lichbane. Shadowflame got released this year. New item, Poggers. Beautiful. If you want movement speed, you are Teemo. You don't need movement speed. Lichbane just kind of sucks. It got nerfed too many times. It's not good at burst. It's not good at sustained damage. You don't need the movement speed. Bad item these days. Same thing with Cosmic Drive. Same exact deal. Cosmic Drive got released Season 11, Season 12 preseason, Season 11 preseason. This item was good Season 11 preseason. Now Season 12 preseason, it got changed. But then it got nerfed 2 freaking times. So this item was really good. If you read everything about it right here, it was good, but it got nerfed. So now it gives less AP than average. It gives health haste. That's cool. Now the thing about the spell dance, this item, this is not good for burst. So if you're going a one-shot build, they're not going to last 3 autos or spells, right? Auto Q auto, they're dead. You get the AP after. If you're going Riftmaker, you don't have the mana to use the haste. This item is only good with the Leandry's build, but this item, it's not as good as Void Staff. It's not as good as Deathcap. It's not as good as Nashor's or Leandry's. It's just not as good because it got nerfed 3 times. So Cosmic is out. Horizon Focus, this item got changed. It does work on your shrooms. But if you look at this item, it only works on your shrooms. You don't want an item that only works on your shrooms when Sweeper Lens is going around. So if you're in Plat or lower and you go a full shroom build, this item is good late game. Otherwise, it's not good. So I'm going to take it out because of that. Rylai's is outdated. It doesn't work on your E. It only works on your Q because your shroom already has a slow. So your shroom already has a slow. Only works on your Q, doesn't work on your E. Why get this item? Doesn't make sense. If you want an item that makes you beefy, you go Demonic, right? This item just has no use for Teemo. Now where these items. These items are viable. Demonic. Demonic is not a good item, but it can be good. If you're versus a whole lot of tanks, right? If you're versus a lot of tanks and you feel like this max health damage is going to be doing a lot, it's not as good for range anymore because you can obviously see melees do more. But if you versus a lot of tanks, it does do damage. So if you're versus an Ornn top and a Scion jungle or whatever you want to call it, a lot of tanks, this item does do damage, but always build it with caution, right? This item does damage. It gives a little survivability. It doesn't have a clear message, right? If you want survivability, Zhonya's will often be better. If you want damage, Void Staff, Deathcap will often be better. But there are sometimes this item could be good, so I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to drag it to the bottom with Morelos. Deathcap. Deathcap's always good, 4th, 5th item. You don't rush Deathcap on Teemo because his AP ratios are not good. His AP ratios are 0.3 on your E. I think they're 1.0 on your Q and 0.5 on your Shroom. Somewhere around that I'm ballparking, but 1.0 is a good ratio. That's your Q. Your W doesn't have a ratio. Your E is 0.3, your Shroom's 0.5. That's subpar AP ratios. So Deathcap's only good at like 4th or 5th item. If you have 3 Infernal Drakes and you have Gathering Storm, you can build Deathcap 3rd, right? But usually 4th or 5th item. Shadowflame, let me talk about this item for a second because this is the most misunderstood item. Now, Riot lied to us with their marketing. This item was marketed as the AP Serpent's Fang because of the shield interaction. They lied to you. It doesn't work like that, okay? Let me tell you why. So first off, you get 100 AP, 200 health, cool beans. Now, I'm going to read this item fully in depth for y'all because everybody drives me crazy, okay? Damage to champion benefits from 10 to 20 additional magic pen. Let me stop there. 10 to 20 magic pen. That is flat magic pen. Remember earlier with Ludens, flat magic pen is good versus no MR. Flat magic pen is not good versus high MR. Let me tell you why. If you have 10 to 20 magic pen versus a tank has 100 to 150 magic resist. If you have 10 to 20 magic pen, we'll say 100. They have 100 MR. They now have 80 MR. Okay, so you're taking off 20% of their MR. Okay, now what if you have a Void Staff? You're taking off 45% of them MR. So you see how that works? It doesn't matter if they have shields. If they have shields and they have 100 MR, you're taking off 20%. Now versus Void Staff, doesn't matter if they have shields or not, you're taking off 45. Do you see how that works versus a tanky target? Now, versus a squishy target, say they have 30 magic resist. You're taking off 20 magic pen. That's 66% of their magic resist gone, kaput. Shield or not, doesn't matter. Okay, now Void Staff's 45%, so you see how Shadowflame is better. Let me tell you why the shields don't matter. The second part of the Cinder Bloom. Max benefit when the target has 1,000 or less health. Okay, pause. So to get 20 magic pen, they have to have a shield or 1,000 or less health, okay? A squishy target versus Teemo always has less than 1,000 health because if they usually have 1,500 to 2,000, your Q puts them to 1,000. So you're always getting that magic pen versus squishy. Now look at a tank. A tank with a shield, you're getting 20 magic pen. A tank without a shield, you're getting 10, okay? Versus squishy, you're always getting 20 magic pen. So flat magic pen is good for squishies. 1,000 health or less is a squishy, right? Do you see how that kind of works there? Do you see why flat magic pen is bad versus tanks? So if they have shields, who gives a shit? If they're a tank, it's not good. If they're a squishy, it's good. I hope that helps. It's a very misunderstood item. I hope that helped. If it doesn't, well, read this, look really into it, go full brain blast. These are our situational items. Now let's put them together, okay? So I'll start with Ludens. This is the easiest build, right? This is a one-shot build, okay? Now, the reason why this build is so good this season is because of Shadowflame. I call it Shadow Fart. Now, let me show you why this build makes sense. If they have a squishy target, because Ludens is good for squishies, you get 6 Magic Pen from Ludens, you get 24, you get 18 from Sork Shoes, you get 10 to 20 from Shadow Fart, okay? So, also the Mythic Passive, don't forget that. So, 18 plus 6, that's 24. 10 to 20, we're just going to use the 20 aspect, that's 44. You get 5 from Ludens Passive, you're at 49 Magic Pen. With this core build, 3 items, 49 Magic Pen. Okay, 54. I forgot we had Nashers. So 54 Magic Pen with this core. If you don't go Nashers first for some reason, you're at 49 Magic Pen. If you're versus squishy target, they have 30 to 40 Magic Pen. You are doing true damage with this build. That's why it's so good right now. Versus squishies only, 49 flat pen, squishies. That's true damage. Perfect. And then you would just go Death Cap, just more one-shot vibes. Now, if they have Magic Resist, let me show you why it's not good versus tanks. Say you're versing a tank with 100 Magic Pen. You are taking off 49 or 54 Magic Pen with 3 items. So versus a tank, this is 54 Magic Pen with 3 items. All right? Now, if you were to just skip all this, right, versus a tank, and you go Void Staff, you're taking off 45. 15, 10 Magic Pen less, but still 1 item. So do you see how this is more valuable versus a tank? 100 Magic Resist. 1 Void Staff does the job of 2 items if you're versus a tank. But again, if you're versus squishy, this is true damage. If you're versus a tank, it's bad. But moral of the story is, flat pen, good versus squishies. I keep hammering this because nobody understands it and it's very confusing. So this build is very good versus squishies, and you would follow up the build like this. Boom. That's like your core build right there. You one-shot squishies, beautiful. You can go Zanya's after if you need Morelos for whatever reason. If you need more Magic Pen, go for it. This is one of the very few builds where I would go Lichbane because it is a burst vibe, right? So this is the one-shot build. So I'm going to leave that there for you. Again, versus squishies only. And now we're going to go to Leandries. Leandries is a tank buster, okay? So when you verse tanks, tanks usually build Magic Resist. So you would usually go Void Staff. Verse tanks, okay? You're just kind of melting them. Tanks don't one-shot you. I don't recommend Zanya's too often, maybe if you need it. Versus tanks, you're just doing a lot of damage. So this is going to be situational, but Death Cap is an option. Sometimes, like I said, Demonic is an option. And then sometimes Morelos is an option in this build. But it really just depends on the game. I'm just taking a quick scan. Okay. Shadowflame usually is not built in this build because, again, if they're tanky, which is when you go Leandries, they usually have Magic Resist. Flat pen would be bad. So these are looking like your options. You can go Zanya's if you need it. Just be careful. But these are all situational. So the core items with Leandries is a pair of boots, Nashers, Leandries, Void. That's the core items. And then everything else is situational. You have to go from there. Hey, Ukulele. Percentage Magic Pen is applied before the flat. A Riftmaker, last item build. This item build will be a little bit different, okay? Because Riftmaker with pre-PTA, you only go Riftmaker because you want like a little durable build with Pressy Attack. You do a lot of autos, right? This is an auto-based build. You don't have to go full Rage Blade. Nashers is enough. But Nashers PT of Riftmaker, auto for 10 years, this is the play. So what helps doing that? Usually Zanya's helps you auto a lot because if you're up in their grill, you need a little survivability. So now you have a little bit of health, you have survivability, whole lot of autos, then it becomes situational. Void Staff is still good. Demonic is sometimes good in this build because it gives you more survivability. Obviously, Death Cap's going to be good late game. Looks about it, right? So you can see the common trend. Morelos, right? A little bit of health. These builds are pretty much the same, just the itemization's a little differently. Zanya's is more priority in this build because you're up in their face. You're playing on hit almost. Demonic's a little more prioritized. Death Cap's still good. Morelos still good. Yeah, these are the builds. I hope all that made sense. It's a whole lot of emphasis on the builds. I hope that all made sense. Do I have any questions before moving forward? I'm going to drag these items back down to situational because I want this to look clean. So your Riftmaker core build would be this. And then you have the situational items down below, right over here. Right over there. Perfect. So this is a core build for Riftmaker. 1, 2, 3 items and boots. This is a core build for Leandries. And this is a core build for Ludens. Boom. And then you have all your situationals down here. And there you go. I hope that helps. That's everything Teemo. Everything Teemo for the builds, and we'll hop into the runes in a moment. Yep, that all looks pretty perfect. Okay. Also, disclaimer. This is what I call the big three, okay? Riftmaker, Leandries, Ludens. With Teemo, the good thing about Teemo, you can build whatever the F you want. The bad thing about Teemo, you can build whatever the F you want, right? These are the three builds with how I just explained them. This is going to be the most constant, the most build, the most easy way to gain ELO. Every game you're going to be useful if you use this thought process. With different builds, sometimes you're useful, sometimes you're not. With on-hit builds, if you can land a lot of autos, it's good. If you can't, it's not good. So this is the big three. These are the three builds that will always be good as long as you use this simple thought process, right? Every game you can go Riftmaker or Press the Attack, Leandries versus Tanks, Ludens versus Squishies. So that is it. Pause it here. Save it here if you need the item builds. Beautiful. That's everything you need to know about the Teemo items broken down. TLDW, too long didn't watch. If you just click the timestamp, Leandries versus Tanks, Ludens versus Squishies, Riftmaker every game if you want. Situational items on your screen. Enjoy. I'm going to save that. Now, let's hop into the runes. Okay. Now, this is going to be equally as long as the builds, equally as important, equally as good not to troll. So let's start with the builds, right? Let's start with the builds. Riftmaker, you hear me? Riftmaker, Press the Attack. It's the golden combo. This is the only page you run with Riftmaker. You go Presence of Mind because you need a mana. You don't have mana on your mythic item. I remember that. Brain Blast. Alacrity, attack speed's good. You could draw more damage. Okay, you could go Last Stand, but again, it's the case. Sometimes Last Stand is good. Sometimes it's bad. Coup de Grace is always good. Riftmaker, you have options. With Teemo, you always need Omnivamp because he's a short-range mage / ADC / assassin. So being short range, you need Omnivamp. You don't need Omnivamp on Anivia. You have 5,000 range. You don't need it on Xerath. You don't need it on Caitlyn. You need it on Teemo. So Omnivamp is covered by Riftmaker. So for Riftmaker only, for Press the Attack with Riftmaker only, you have options. You could just go Taste of Blood Rav Hunter, right, for more sustain, but also you could go Bone Plating Overgrowth for that crazy Aurelia. You could go AP for more damage. This is up to you. My most popular page is Taste of Blood Rav Hunter. You're always getting health, beautiful, more sustain, cool. Like I said, but this is fine if you need survivability. If you want to scale, conditioning is fine. If you want to do a lot of damage, boom, there you go. So most popular right here. Second most popular if you're a damage fiend, boom. Awesome. The secondaries are the same for every page. Attack speed for Teemo. Early game, you need attack speed to CS and do damage. AP because Teemo's an AP champ. You do your defensive based on your lane, okay? Based on your lane. There you go. Beautiful. For jungle, you'll go scaling health because in the jungle, you don't need armor to kill the camps. They hit like a wet noodle. In jungle, you'll go health. If you're in top lane, you just want to scale, you go health. Scaling health is great. It's bad for early game, obviously, but it's good for scaling. So that's Press the Attack and Riftmaker. Now, slight change if you're going Press the Attack at Leandries, you now go Triumph because you have mana from Leandries. Beautiful. You have mana from Leandries. You don't need Presence of Mind. Also with Leandries, if you want to go Cut Down, if you're versus a lot of tanks, Cut Down can be good. Keep in mind, if you go Cut Down, you're not building Demonic. You're not going to build Cosmic Drive. You're not going to build Morelos. If you go Cut Down, you have to also go items without health, so it's a little bit squishier. But if you're versus a lot of tanks, it can do a lot of damage. Versus Kled, it's amazing. Scion, Ornn. So with this is Leandries. You can go Coup de Grace your game, or you could go Cut Down depending on the team. Keep that in mind. Now Leandries, you have to go Ravenous Hunter because you don't have Omnivamp from Riftmaker. So for Leandries, you have to go Ravenous Hunter. Cheap Shot is more damage. Taste of Blood's more sustain. Up to you. You would not go the Scaling Health rune. So let's Press the Attack. Lethal Tempo is a worse version of Press the Attack. I don't go Lethal Tempo. I'm going to break down every rune for y'all in this video so you don't troll. Lethal Tempo is worse than Press the Attack until you have 3 items. With Press the Attack, you auto 3 times, you do a crap ton of damage. With Lethal Tempo, in the early game, your auto is just your poison. Doesn't matter. When you get Nashers, Lethal Tempo is better. Okay? But until 1 item, it's way worse than Press the Attack. At 1 item, it is about the same, give or take. When you get more than 1 item, when you have 3 items in Death Cap, Lethal Tempo is now better. But early game is everything in this meta. You need to get off to a good start early game with Press the Attack. That is why Lethal Tempo is just a worse version. Fleet stinks because it heals you, but it got reworked where it heals you a lot when you auto the enemy champion, okay? If you auto the enemy champion, it heals a lot. If you don't, it heals for nothing. Teemo in top lane you have to auto the CS to get CS. You can't auto the enemy champion every time you get a proc. It's very hard to use. That makes it not good. Conqueror sucks for ranged champions. Read the description. It gets less value for ranged champions. Teemo's no different. Easy no on that one. That's the first page. Press the attacks a ticket. Okay, so drum roll, please. This is a top end jungle guide. Okay, so remember the builds: Ludens, Riftmaker, Leandries. That applies to jungle. Look at the runes. Press the attack for Riftmaker. Press the attack for Leandries. That applies to jungle as well. Okay, so without further ado, let's go into this next page. This is where we have options, okay? Electrocute is an okay rune for top lane. It is not good for jungle. Electrocute is a well-balanced rune. Let me show you why. Look at these points, right? If Riftmaker is always with press the attack, but if you go Electrocute or Ludens, if you go Leandries or Ludens, you have options. If you go Leandries or Ludens, right, Ravenous Hunter, because you need Omnivamp. Now, the reason why this page is viable is because you can always auto-Q auto. If you can't auto-Q auto on Teemo, you're doing something wrong. You can auto-Q auto a Soraka, you can auto-Q auto a Kennen, a Ryze, you can auto-Q auto an Ornn, you can auto-Q auto everybody. So it's always going to give you value. There's no risk, okay? So the thing with Electrocute is it's always going to be fine, but it's never going to be S+. With Press the Attack, you can 1v1 an Ornn. With Electrocute, you can't. Press the Attack has infinite possibilities. Electrocute is just there doing damage. So Electrocute is always going to be fine. It's never going to be great. So it's kind of just like a safe room. Hey Mario, how you doing? Celerity is not good on Teemo. I'll show you why. Because Celerity it gives you 7% on your W and 1% overall movement speed. But 7% movement speed on your W comes out to like, I think we did the math a stream or two ago. It comes out to, I think, like 5 movement speed or 6 movement speed, and that's not really much. So Celerity, it's just like, it's reserved for champs like Hecarim. Hey, Cactus, how you doing? So, again, y'all, this is a Twitch and YouTube collab, both platforms. I love you both. Thanks for being here. Electrocute, very safe rune. The reason why this rune's viable is you can go damn near anything in the secondary page. Okay, so for top lane, right? You can go Cheap Shot or Taste of Blood, depending on preference. You go Ravenous Hunter. Top lane, you can go whatever you want. If you want to scale with AP, boom, beautiful. The reason why is because you have the Omnivamp with Rav Hunter, right? You don't need Omnivamp from your item. You have it on this one rune page. Now you can go anything. Okay, so if you want to go scaling AP, there it is. If you want to go more attack speed versus a tank, boom, there it is. If you want to go boots or stopwatch for some reason I don't know, that I don't recommend, you can go that, right? If you want to go tanky, Electrocute's viable because it's always going to be fine, and you can go whatever room page you want, and that's fun. And in the jungle, you're going to go Alacrity because attack speed is good, right? So that's why Electrocute's viable. It's never going to be S+, it's never going to be broken, but it's always there. Predator is not viable in Teemo because you get a lot of movement speed, but you can't do anything with it, similar to Everfrost. You can't combo off Predator. You run at them, you auto them, you leave. It does nothing. Dark Harvest. I'm going to break a lot of hearts right now. Dark Harvest sucks, okay? Dark Harvest is only good when you're smurfing because League of Legends is an early game meta right now. With the community being over 10 years old, right? The game's been out for a while. Some people are sick of League. They run it down if they get killed. Some people, play early game champions, right? Either way, if you look at the average game time, it's at an all-time low. Dark Harvest is a late game rune. Dark Harvest power scaling is bad early game, bad mid game, good late game. We can't have that right now in an early game meta. So Dark Harvest is bad unless you're smurfing. Unless you go win lane without a rune, Dark Harvest is not for you. Electrocute is good early, good mid, good late game. Dark Harvest is bad early, mid, good late. Not worth the power spike. It's a for fun rune. Use it when you're smurfing or if you're having fun with the boys and girls. Hailblades, bad for top lane, good for jungle. My premier jungle rune because it is really good early game, really good mid, really good late game. For jungle only, let me tell you why. You get Nashor's Tooth with this bad boy. 3 autos with Nashor's beautiful. A lot of bursts. Way more than Electrocute. But it's not good for top lane because minion aggro is a thing. You auto them 3 times. You have to walk to the minions. You get hit like a truck. You auto them with Hail Blades. They can just walk away, right? In the jungle, when you're ganking behind them, when you're ganking not on a ward, they can't just walk away. You get those autos off. Boom, you're in the fog of war. You're mischievous. Top lane, they see it coming. So for top lane, because of minion aggro and because of the lack of surprise, Hailblades is not good. But for jungle, it's amazing. And again, with jungle, you would go this page, right? Or this page. For top lane, mix it up. That's the red slots. Electrocute, good for top lane. Jungle, Hailblade's good for mid. Red or Dark Harvest kind of stink. Hey, is it? I'm going to say Stevens. I usually put it at around 15 stacks. I feel like Dark Harvest is poggers, but I don't know the math behind it. But even at 15 stacks, even at 10 stacks, you're looking at 20 minutes. Blue Tree for Teemo. So, Airy is good for top lane. The other two suck. Okay, Comet is a worse version of Airy for Teemo. Phase Rush is reserved for that one Teemo player that names rhyme with his name rhymes with iPad. Okay, he's a very known Teemo streamer. He uses Phase Rush. He uses Shield Bow. He uses all those AD items. He is a god among men. We all look at iPad, the streamer who names rhymes with iPad. We all look at him, okay, and we say, how the hell does he do this? How is he challenger every season with these builds and runes? Nobody else does it, okay? And that's for him only. He's a god. I can go on and on about it with my crush for the streamer whose name rhymes with iPad, but we're not going to do that. But leave Phase Rush, leave the AD builds to him. He's a god. We're not. So that being said, these two are out of the question. Comet sometimes goes to Airy. Phase Rush is only good with iPad. And that's because of movement speed. You don't need movement speed on Teemo. You need damage. So that being said, let's go Airy. Airy for the top lane. Airy is really good versus squishies. The way Airy works is you get 2 procs with every auto if you use it half decent. So what that does, you get 2 procs. It is reduced. It is very heavily diminished by magic resist. This is why it's only good for squishy champions. If they buy Null Magic Mantle first base, Airy's going to be bad. But if they don't, aka if they're a squishy champion, Airy's really good at chunks. This is a early game dominant rune. Remember that power scaling. Airy is really good early game. It's okay mid game. It blows late game. But early game is everything. So if you can win lane, if you're versus a squishy champion, if you can win lane, Airy's really good. I also like this page when you Q-max, okay? So I use this page with Airy versus a lot of mages or ADC's top lane. If I can't auto them 3 times or press the attack, I like Airy. When you go Airy into Vayne or Kennen or Mage or ADC, whatever, it does a lot of damage because they don't build MR, and you don't have to auto that much. That's the key trick with Airy. You don't have to auto. So with that being said, let's jump into the page. I like to go Mana Flow Ban because oftentimes I do Q-max with Airy. You don't have to, but when you go Q-max, you go Mana Flow Ban, Absolute Focus. Here is something that's very important. Scorch is good if you can win lane. If you can't win lane, Scorch is not good. It's a very big decision with your judgment. Let me show you why. Again, when you're going Airy, you're not going Riftmaker, okay? So you have to get Omnivamp. Now let me show you why this page could potentially blow your socks off. When you're versus Squishy Champion, you can't auto him 3 times. You can only auto Q. But if you auto Q with Airy, best case scenario, you get 2 Airy procs, you get the cheap shot damage, and you get the Scorch damage. Do you see how all that adds up in the early game? Very early game room page, okay? If you're level 1 and you auto Q, you're doing 1 proc of Airy, 10 damage. You're doing 15 from Scorch and 10 from cheap shot. That is 25, that is 35 damage level 1. That's a big deal with an auto Q. Bonus, comparative to other runes. And again, this page I'd like to do when you're versus champions, you cannot auto a lot. That's the trick. And you can still win lane because it's an early game dominant page. So don't be tricked. I wouldn't go Airy versus Gangplank because although you can't auto him, you can't win lane either. That guy just hits you with his freaking oranges and gun. So this page, when you cannot auto, but you can win lane. I'm going to keep repeating it. It's very important. A couple of situational points. Cheap shot, I like it for the more damage. You can go Taste of Blood. Scorch if you can win lane. Gathering Storm if you can't. And then if you're versus Mage, if you want survivability, go Nullifying Orb. If it doesn't matter to you, go Mana Flow Band. If you're Q-maxing, you have to go Mana Flow Band. If you're not, you can go Null Orb. That's very important. Any questions, shoot it now about this page. It's very underrated. It's really good. Now, Grasp, okay? Obviously, these 2 pages are not good. You can't use them, these 2 little guys. But Grasp is very important. Grasp is a bad rune. But, keyword, but, it is good if you have to take it to survive. A good rule of League of Legends, if you're dead, you can't do damage, okay? Now, some lanes, with Teemo being a Season 1 champion in Season 12, some lanes you can't do anything, and you have to go Grasp. A good example is Malphite, okay? With Malphite, he goes Comet, he throws the Crash Bandicoot boulder at you, you eat it, you have less movement speed, you can't run at him and auto him. So versus Malphite, I like Grasp, because he Qs me, and I'd sit there and I cry. But guess what? If I have Grasp, if you combine this with Doran's Shield, if you don't combine it with Doran's Shield, it still is very good, and let me show you why. You go Demolish because it helps versus turrets. You can go Second Wind or Bone Plating, but for this example, we go Second Wind, and then usually Overgrowth. So now look at this page. Now you have Second Wind healing you, and you have Taste of Blood healing you. You know, you can go 2 MR runes if you wanted. You can go 1 MR rune. But if you look at this page and you say, wow, I'm versus a lane that I can't do anything into, well, now I can at least survive, okay? And you could do stuff like this. If you wanted to go Revitalize, go for it. If you really want to dive into that early game. But, like, keep in mind, Grasp is not a good rune. It does reduced everything for ranged champions. So do not go this rune page willy-nilly. This should break your heart if you have to go Grasp. You should lose sleep over it. You should tell your mother and tell her to some lanes that are a good example are Malphite and Gangplank and Rise. Those 3 champions, you can't even farm versus them if you don't have Grasp, if you don't have Second Wind, right? If you don't have double defensive runes. So only take it when you can't survive. You do not take it when you want to scale. If you're versus Scion or Orin and you say, oh, I'm just going to auto them a lot and stack it. This proc, look at it this way, okay? Let me show you something. If on an average game, if on a good game you get 30 grass procs, that's a lot. 30 grass procs is a lot. Okay, if you get 30 grass procs, that's a really good game. You are getting 90 health. That's it. It's doing less than 1,000 damage on 30 procs. 90 health, less than 1,000 damage. That is bad for having a good game. If you have a good game with Press the Attack, it's doing 2,000 damage. Okay, see the difference there? Best case scenario, this is giving you 90 to 100 health. 30 procs is a lot, okay? So if you get 10, even worse. So keep in mind, only good if you have to take it. And that's a Grasp. I hope y'all understand that. I hate when people just go Grasp because they don't know what else to do. Show them this video, now you have options. Now you're not going to be a noob. This page sucks. Let me tell you why. First Strike came out this season, and it's very bad on Teemo. It's very bad on a lot of champions. Let me show you. So if you look at this ability here, attacks or abilities against an enemy champion within 0.25 seconds of entering combat grant 5 gold and First Strike for 3 seconds. You do 10% extra damage and you get some gold. Now, what it doesn't show on here is that this rune gets taken off if you take damage before doing damage. If they hit you with anything, all right? If you're going to 1v1 somebody and they hit you with a breath of fresh air, all right? If lint falls out of their pocket and lands on your head, you don't have a rune anymore. That's really unreliable for Teemo, a champion with less than 500 range, right? That doesn't, you know, you're not playing Lux. So it's very hard to reliably use this rune. Yes, like we said before, if you're plat and lower and you do a shroom build, this rune is good and it's very fun in a shroom build. Because when you get to 20 minutes and you pop off a shroom, you get gold, it's a great feeling. But I only recommend shroom builds for plat and lower, alright? And even then, it's a scaling build. My motto, win lane, win game, early game matters. So this is a very bad rune because of that. Very unreliable, and also it's a scaling rune. 10% extra damage in the early game is nothing, right? And that also means no gold. 10% extra damage at 40 minutes is a lot. That means a lot of gold. It's a scaling rune. Scaling runes are out of meta right now because it's an early game. So, that First Strike is kind of kaput because of that. Also, the rest of the page stinks. In laning phase, you usually want boots, right? You can't go till 12 minutes without boots versus a lot of lanes. And at stopwatch, again, 14 minutes till you get a rune. That's not too good. The secondary biscuits are okay, but they also got nerfed, right? DMAT isn't really used anymore. Futures market, it's okay. Third slot, Time Warp Time is okay. Not really that good. Approach Velocity only works on shrooms. Cosmic Insight's okay. So you can see the rest of the page isn't really that good. So, and also Glacial doesn't work on Teemo anymore. Spellbook is trolling for a lot of champions, maybe except Ornn. And that concludes the inspiration page. So you can see the runes. Quick TLDW if you're here at the timestamp. Press the attack's good with Riftmaker Leandries for the top end jungle. The rest of the runes suck. Electrocute is good for top lane. Hailblaze is good for jungle. These two suck. Aerie is good for top lane. These two suck. Grasp is good for top lane only when you need it. These two suck. That is your rune page to combine with the builds we went over earlier. And now you have all the runes and builds for Teemo. And my job is done here. I think, let's see if we missed anything at all. What are some rumors that we can take care of now? Okay, so a couple things just to cap off the video. On hit Teemo is bad now because on hit Teemo used to be really good, but they changed Rageblade. Rageblade used to be a really good item. It did magic damage. And it did on hit magic damage. It gave AP, it gave AD, it gave attack speed. The new Rageblade does physical damage, which again, Teemo builds Void Staff. He's an AP champion. It does physical damage and also scales with crit. Building crit items on Teemo isn't really that good. If you're going on hit, a lot of autos, you want on hit effects. But Rageblade kind of goes against that mold, against that synergy, because it does 80 damage and it scales off crit. So the reason why on hit is bad now and it used to not be bad is because of the Rageblade change. Also, a common misconception with Teemo is that Teemo is a lane bully. Teemo's not a lane bully anymore. Teemo is a lane bully in certain matchups where they have no range and you can auto them for free. Teemo is now a scaling champion in today's day and age. Teemo is a good AP stacking champion. That's a false as well. Teemo's AP ratios are very bad. Teemo's AP ratios are subpar, so Teemo scales better with AP items that do Magic Pen, AP items like Nashers, AP items that give you some sort of survivability since he doesn't have it in his kit, and some sort of magic damage via Pen. I believe those are the big rumors. Yeah, I think that concludes it. So I hope that helped. I hope this was an hour of fun for y'all. I hope this helps you with your builds and runes, and enjoy. Thanks for watching. Smiley face.